Okay, we're recording. All right. Well, welcome everybody. We still have people that are coming in, but we are recording this session, and then we're gonna post it up on our website for reference for people who couldn't make it today, or if anybody has any questions. But we are here to talk about a really exciting announcement. We made this a few weeks ago, and then at the fall conference at the beginning of the month. But then we also wanted to set up a time for people who weren't at the fall conference to be able to come and ask questions and kind of discuss what the future of the Master Naturalist program is looking like. And so I'm going to go ahead and kind of just give some context of what we're doing. And before we start, I want to introduce our counterpart here on the Zoom. So Hannah Pinio, if you want to raise your hand or wave, if anybody can see her, she's also she's the executive director for the Nebraska Statewide Arboretum. So she's going to be here today, also helping to answer any questions that you guys might have. But basically what we're doing is the Master Naturalist program. We are going to be merging in with Nebraska Statewide Arboretum. And for those of you who don't know, the Nebraska Statewide Arboretum is a nonprofit that is part of the Nebraska Forest Service and underneath the umbrella of the University of Nebraska system. It's kind of similar to the Nebraska Master Naturalist program being underneath the university. And so kind of the reason for this this development is, so the Nebraska Master Naturalist program, as many of you know, we operate, majority of our operational funds come from grants from the Nebraska Environmental Trust. We are coming up at the end of our grant cycle, which will be June 31st of 2023. And at the end of that cycle, we were looking for kind of a new administrative home for the Master Naturalist program. And we had even discussed and had kind of came up with some plans about even just leaving the University of Nebraska system entirely. And kind of going with another organization. But before we got to that decision, we had connected with the Nebraska Statewide Arboretum, and they have welcomed us to become part of their organization. And so to do that, we have started a trial merger phase for the next 5 months. It'll go through March of next year. And so a lot of that will depend on the success of this trial merger will depend on fundraising. And so we're going to be talking about that today. But the great thing is us becoming a part of the Nebraska Statewide Arboretum offers many benefits. The program will still be housed underneath the University of Nebraska system. So anything from, basically for us, it's basically like kind of like a departmental shift. So there'll be, so right now we're organized or administered through Nebraska, or excuse me, so many acronyms, through under the School of Natural Resources. So Dennis Ferraro is our program investigator or principal investigator on a grant, and my supervisor. Well, that would be handed off to Hannah. And so, but on the Master Naturalist side, on all our members, things that you guys would see, there's not going to be any change in the delivery of the program. There's not going to be anything really any different as far as the changes in your obligations for volunteer hours, continuing education. If anything, there'll be some more benefits and some more training opportunities that we can do. And so we'll talk about that a little bit down the line. But and so if you guys have read our announcement, and then we also have a corresponding question and answer page that we put in there that answers a lot of questions that we envision people having. But basically the good news is it allows our program to become more sustainable. The Nebraska Statewide Arboretum has a long and strong history of fundraising and development. And so for our organization, allowing us to tap into those resources will just help us in the future growth and development of our program. But with that, I'm going to hand it over to you, Hannah. If you have anything you'd like to add.
Yeah. So yes, I'm Hannah Pinio. I'm the executive director of the Nebraska Statewide Arboretum, and I'm happy to be here with you all today. I think Matt covered most of it. I just want to offer a couple other things and some clarification. So first and foremost, know that this is not a done deal. We have some things that we need to work out, like Matt said, some fundraising, some various details. And I am working closely with Vicki on the Master Naturalist Foundation board to continue to work on this merger, the trial merger, and make sure everything's a good fit. So if we get to the end of March when the trial merger ends and maybe, you know, it doesn't work out how we thought, or the foundation says, I think we can do this another way, then we all have the ability to say, go our different directions. So I just want to make that clear, so you don't go, what happened? You know, we're trying this out for a reason. It's going to be easier to undo a trial than it would be to undo a full merger if we determine that it's not a good fit. So, but I think my board and our staff, and as well as the Master Naturalist Program Board and Foundation Board, have all put a lot of thought into this and consideration. And at this point, we do believe that it'll be a good fit and that we can both benefit from a partnership and a merger like this. I'm going to drop that, if you're okay. Matt, drop the announcement in the chat so people can reference it if they want, since that has the question and answers as well. But at that point, I think we've covered quite a bit of it, including in the announcement. So I think we can open it up for questions, comments, concerns, and go from there. Don't all go at the same time.
So does anybody, okay, Kathy, I see you unmuted.
Well, you said you were going to send out stuff for fundraising and that, and I was just kind of wondering if you got anything put together.
Yep.
Yes,
we do. Thank you for asking. Yeah, we got a little bit delayed on that, but we are acting on it now. Let me pull it up. So we are going to be sending out some letters here very soon. I know that the foundation board is reviewing them right now. I make sure I'm sending the right thing. And as soon as they approve them, then we'll get those sent out. But we do have a donation page ready to go for you. So it's right there. That kind of outlines what we're going for. I just sent it in the chat and gives a little bit more information. So now that we have a couple of things figured out with the foundation board, we'll really be hitting the ground hard on the fundraising side of things. We just needed to work out a few details.
So that second link that's in there, feel free to send that and put it on social media. We're going to start doing some more concentrated social media posts with all that here, and so that link is pretty fresh, like this week. So there'll be a lot. You guys will see a lot of it as well. So does anybody have any questions about as far as like any concerns that they may have. Outside of fundraising is the main thing that I'm looking that I'm looking for. Hannah can answer all the fundraising questions. I can answer the programming questions people may have.
I think Dory is unmuted.
I can't remember how to raise my hand on this. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, so when we merge with the Nebraska State Arbor, whatever, are we still gonna have our own name and logo, or will we be like part of your organization?
Yeah, so it would become a program of the Nebraska Statewide Arboretum. You still have your own name, your own logo. The differences you might see is that websites would be consolidated. We would make it so that the Master Naturalist logo would always need to have an Arboretum tie to it, just so that we can be consistent with branding. It's something that we have had to work on a lot because we have things like Spring Affair, which started without us and then is tied to us now. So we want to make sure that we're consistent with that so that everyone knows Spring Affair is part of the Arboretum and Master Naturalist is part of the Arboretum. Bloombox is another one that we have to work a lot on, getting it connected to the Arboretum. So yes, I guess so the answer is yes and no, a little bit.
So are there other organizations that have done this with you, joined with you after they've been an organization for a while?
No, this would be the first time that we would do any type of merger like this. We joined an organization after we were formed. So Nebraska Statewide Arboretum was founded in 1978. It was part of the university. During the Great Recession, the university cut us from the budget. And so we joined with the Nebraska Forest Service. So that's another thing. The NSA is part of the Forest Service and then part of the university in that way, since the Forest Service is a university department. So all of our staff are university staff and Forest Service staff, but we are standalone. So you will see that we put we put the Forest Service as a partner, but we're not considered like a program of the Forest Service since they are a government agency and we're a standalone nonprofit.
So in the stuff Matt sent out, it said his position would still be there, but what about Doug and Tisha?
That is something that we kind of have to figure out. We're still working on. A lot of that will depend on fundraising because this will be a unique time for the Master Naturalist organization in that you don't have enough grant funds to cover all of your salary. At this point, that could change. We're hoping that changes so that we could get there. So I guess the answer is we don't know. We're very hopeful that everyone can just move over.
Well, when will you know?
When the fundraising is
Like at
done.
the end of our trial period? Is that when
Yes.
you'll know?
Yes. Mhm. That would be when we.
And at the end of the trial period, if it's in there in the Q&A too, if the funds aren't met by then, anything that had been raised will go back to the foundation, and the foundation and the program will decide next steps essentially.
So all the things that were already set up, like the training and stuff, is that still happening next year, whether we're
Yep.
part of the?
Yep, we are still operating as normal. So we have training dates set for next year. We have the reunion set for next year. We are continuing this right now with the executive program board elections. And so the only caveat with that is if the merger is successful, then those who are on the executive board, that board will basically dissolve then when this merger takes place. So the program board will basically turn into a sub advisory committee to the junior program, or excuse me, to the junior and adult program, because we're carrying the junior program over with us, obviously. And so the Nebraska Statewide Arboretum, they have their own board, and then they have basically a program committee that reports back to that board. And so we are looking to, potentially when we get there, to take a handful of people, master naturalists, like we have master naturalists represented on the board right now, and then maybe a program partner to then be a part of that committee. And so also on the foundation side too, when this merger would complete, the foundation would also dissolve.
So we wouldn't have to do any more fundraising at all?
No, we would do more fundraising. That would be a nonprofit's dream, is to never have to do it. If any of you know Mackenzie Scott, send her my way. We'll get it taken care of. We'd love that. No, we would have to do fundraising. So right now, the Nebraska Statewide Arboretum, we fundraise and through grants, individual fundraising, sponsorships, and memberships dues is where we get all of our money to operate. This would increase our annual budget by 100 to 150,000 a year. So that means that my fundraising responsibilities would increase by that much. So we would need to continue to fundraise that. The unique part here is we're trying to raise that in 4 months, as opposed to we raise our full budget over a full year instead of half a year. So it would mean we need to do some increased fundraising. And we would ask you all to help with that if that's something that you're interested in, same as we do with our members. If they, NSA members, if they want to help with fundraising, there's a lot of ways that they can help, and we're happy to make that clear.
I have some questions. This is
Yep.
Midge Dublinsky. What happens with our relationship with our partners, like Pioneer Park Nature Center, the Crane Trust, and those folks that we've used as resources? We've used their facilities for training. What happens to all of that?
None of those partnerships are going away. If anything, they will be more solidified because we will be approaching some of those for the fundraising part of it as far as sponsorships. And so this will really allow us to secure our partnerships, because with our partnerships, we've always had, unless they were written into support through a grant or like in-kind support, whether they give us their facility or their personnel time, they donate so much of that time, but not any cash donation support, that type of thing. It's really been a handshake agreement with a lot of our partners, saying, we'll cross post your promote your events and try to fill them with master naturalists. We'll try to help you meet your volunteer needs by supporting you with master naturalists. But this is a way for us to really write down some of those partnership agreements and secure, add some more, I don't know, I'm looking for a metaphor.
Yeah,
but really,
some validity behind it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we, as the Statewide Arboretum, we already have a network of about 110, is that, I think, Toby, where we're at, with Arboretum sites and landscape steward sites across the state. So we have a network already and a process of how to create these statewide statewide partnerships, that's what I was looking for, with MOUs and regular communication and reciprocal benefits, I guess, is how I would say it. So we can help create a process in the same way for master naturalists.
Second question, since we're all master naturalists right now and we are not dues paying members, we serve by our volunteer hours and our willingness to support our board and our partners. Would we as master naturalists individuals be required or strongly suggested that we become members of the Nebraska Statewide Arboretum and pay dues?
Well, I strongly recommend that every Nebraskan becomes a member of the Nebraska Statewide Arboretum. But you wouldn't have, it would not be required. We're not looking at charging membership fees to master naturalists or anything like that. It's all on a, if you can, and if you are willing, and if you believe in it, and you'd like to give, we will be appreciative of that gift.
Okay, and final question for Hannah. What's in this for the Nebraska Statewide Arboretum, since you said you've never done this merger partnership adventure that we're about to undertake? I find it exciting, but we're the smaller group. We're the poor cousins at the dinner table. What happens?
Well, does it help if I say it looks good on my resume? No, it what it gives to NSA is a robust and well-respected education and volunteer program. We do education kind of on an ad hoc basis. We have volunteers who come in and help us every so often. But as a statewide organization, we would love to have a program that is known throughout the state for providing excellent education, continuing education, and volunteers to organizations that do really important work. Every partner that Master Naturalist works with is an organization that we want to work with. So this is a great connection to that, and we believe in what you all do.
Okay, thank you.
And we have Master Naturalists on our staff, because
Yes.
Toby is on my staff and Michelle's on my staff, and they are both Master Naturalists. So there we go.
So Kim put a question in the chat. Will you still pursue grants such as through the environmental trusts individually or solely through NSA? That's a really good question. So right now there's two things I want to bring up with that. So the Master Naturalist Foundation has submitted a grant proposal to the environmental trust here this fall. And so this is a change for us because it's not coming from the university program, it's coming from the foundation. And so it's also asking for a substantially less amount of money than we've asked in the past. And so it's meant to really kind of be to just kind of assist with what we're doing here. And so that grant, they went through right now their timeline. We'll find out officially in usually like January, February is when we know, and then they're officially awarded in like April. So we'll know really about the time that this trial period is over, but that's factored into what we're looking at raising. But it has, so right now it's gone through the eligibility scoring process, and it so that came out at the end of November. I'm looking at that, it's been rated pretty high. It's like right now it's like 7 on their list, which is the highest that I've ever seen from our organization. Well, coming from the foundation, but representing us. So that is good, because that'll go towards our goal, as well as even before this conversation with NET or the NSA started this summer. We've been meeting with the Nebraska Game and Parks Commission, because in the first 10 years of the Master Naturalist program, they provided a cash contribution to support the program, and then that was going to come up again. So that was 2009 to 2019, and in 2019 we were going to reapproach for another agreement with Game and Parks to do that again, but then that's when the whole state economic downturn happened and COVID happened. And so now coming back out of that, we've been in conversations with them this spring and summer of this year to do that again in the future. And so they have an amount that they're putting into their budget. And so in January, when the state legislature reconvenes, and when they do the budget, and if it's approved, that's another amount that will go toward their goal as well.
And I know the foundation board has been working hard with other granting organizations to get some other funds.
Mhm.
So they're going to continue to work on that as well, and hopefully we get good news from them. There are a couple of questions that got sent direct messages to me. One is from Carol, and it asks, would there be volunteer opportunities with Nebraska Arboretum for the Nebraska Master Naturalist members? And yes, and we've had Master Naturalist volunteers at some of our events as they are available. So yes, we'd be happy to have you volunteer. Even if the merger doesn't happen, everyone's welcome, of course. And then Dory asked, what will happen to the River City chapter? I'll let Matt take that one.
That's right now. You know, I'm hoping that they will, you know, still exist. There won't be. I'm just thinking about the positions, since there will essentially be no executive program board, so they won't have any of that to contend with. But as an organization, a sub-organization, they can still welcome to be active and involved. And so as far as the River City chapter goes, we do probably need to sit down and have a conversation on what that's going to look like, as far as if they want to hold elections or if they want to turn more into a informal group. So that's something we still need to talk about, how that's going to look like. But as long as they still want to actively participate and as a chapter, I think that'd be great. And I would like to also build out some more of our groups, not just by region, but more in like location, like geographic location, but more of like type of activities people want to do. So anywhere from birders to, we had a group of, you know, mental health practitioners get together. And so not just by geographic area, but by type of activity and interest people have as well. That's something I would like to do in the future.
Matt or Hannah,
Yeah.
this is Midge again. One other question, because if chapters are kind of in flux, how or is it even going to be possible that Master Naturalists could serve in a capacity on the statewide Arboretum board or committees so that we have some representation?
Yes, so if the merger goes through, there would be some board positions that open to Master Naturalists from the foundation board. So it would be kind of a negotiation with them on getting Master Naturalist representation on our board. After that, our board is open applications. So anyone, as long as you do have to be a member of the Nebraska Statewide Arboretum to be on our board. So anyone who is a member could apply, and then the board votes to move people forward or not. So it is a voting board, it's not up to staff. I just send the applications to them and they do interviews and decide. So that's kind of how that works.
And I can also, and we've discussed this too, and I can also put together like an advisory committee to get feedback and input from the Master Naturalist members, which is something I always want, because I I always want a second pair of, eyes on things as far as input on what type of programming we want to do, input on, resources, other partners, things that we can add to our training, things that can make the program better and stronger, things that we may need to tweak and change. And so that voice that our Master Naturalists have, there will still be a communication conduit there.
Yeah, and I think it's important to know what kind of input you want to have, because if you want more day-to-day input, that advisory committee would be the way to go. Our board is definitely broad overview oversight. They are in charge of looking over our financials, reviewing the audit, the budget, helping to fundraise, the strategic planning, but they don't do day-to-day things. That's managed by the staff.
Well, does anybody else have any questions or comments they'd like to add?
Yeah, will you kind of keep us updated on the fundraising amounts, what we're at, or? Okay.
Yep.
If you go to that donation page, it automatically updates as people give, so you can see where we're at.
But will that include all these other entities and grants and stuff? Okay,
Yep, we'll add them in as they become official. So we don't put pledges. It has, like with the legislator or with the gaming park, that has to be approved by the legislature. Once that goes through them, which we don't think we'll have any problems with. Once that goes through, then we'll add that into the amount. But we try not to count our chickens before they hatch.
Yeah.
This is Midge. I just want to say thanks to Matt and Hannah and anybody else that's been in this process with this merger. I am, recently back in Nebraska after a little side trip to Florida for 15 months. I'm glad to be back in Nebraska. We do many more things than they do. But I do have to leave the meeting. So thanks for all your efforts. I'm excited about this and I hope we go forward for a long, long time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Midge.
yeah, thanks for all your hard work on this. And whoever else is involved, like she said.
It is a big, that's a great point. Yeah, it's a big, big team. So it's the Master Naturalist Foundation Board, it's the program board, it's the Statewide Arboretum staff and their board as well. And then getting approval, from the state forester to the senior vice chancellor of the university. So it's been a lot of people in on this. And so I think that shows a sign of commitment to our partners and making this happen. But if you guys don't have any other questions at this moment, go ahead. If you think of something later, feel free to contact us, and we'll be keeping everybody updated as far as where we're at with the fundraising. The program and foundation and NSA will be meeting on a pretty regular basis as we go through this as well. But if anybody has any ideas, suggestions, things they want to bring to the table as well, you're welcome to offer your input as well. But Hannah, do you have anything else you want to add, or anybody else have anything else they would like to add today?
That's it for me.
Well, great. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording then.